Matthew 13, verse 22. The one sown among thorns represents one who receives the message, but all of life's busy distractions, his divided heart, and his ambition for wealth result in suffocating the kingdom message, and it becomes fruitless.
Jesus had all the wealth. He wasn't limited. He could have done all those things that the wealthy were doing in his day. But he understood that he was a seed sent upon the earth, and that he was supposed to reach into every heart as the sower, and then as the one who sets the example for us. He is the ultimate mentor. He's the ultimate guide. And so we always have to check our heart condition. What is inside the seed is what we are yet to unveil. We don't know how powerful that seed is yet. You and I don't know how powerful what that seed is. Remember, this is the fullness of God placed within the seed. Check the seed, right? Just think about the seed. When you look at the seed in seed form, how does he appear to you? All this round, sandy looking stuff. You don't think about the possibilities that are within the seed. You just look at it in that form. But that seed knows what it is. It knows that given the right conditions, which is your heart, it has the ability, when placed on fertile ground, to sprout, not just upwards, but downwards first. It has the ability to open up that ordinary seed that sits there like a dead object or a dead entity. Given the right condition, it will go down deep into the soil and stretch out and begin to build out roots in different directions. That tiny little seed. And over time, as the conditions get better and better for it, it's going to start pushing upwards too, because the weeds are around there. Most of the time, the weeds, I don't know why the weeds around the crops are so strong. You find these weeds around the main plants. They are so strong. They are even stronger than the plant itself, because they are trying to prove their strength and they are trying to choke the plant. But this seed has the ability to push past them and grow past them. Have you ever seen a weed grow as big as a tree?
Yes.
Yeah. It's like a whole competition going on. But in the midst of that competition, this seed has the ability, given the right conditions, to push through and be so gigantic. Even with the weed right by its side, it will still prosper. It will still become the fullness of what the original master creator placed within it. So what I'm trying to say is that you do not yet know what is inside you. So the attraction from wealth is like the weed, just strong and firm by your side, trying to pull you away, trying to stop your growth, trying to hinder you, trying to destroy all that you could possibly be. All that greatness, all that depth you have in God that causes you to be that gigantic tree that is even able to produce fruit producing trees that is even big enough for the birds of the earth to come and nest in it, that is big enough to provide shelter and coolness. Provides coolness, it provides shade, it even provides comfort. All of that is because the soil was fertile, and because in spite of all the obstacles it had, it stayed desiring to see the fullness of what this seed will produce in them. As I was praying today, I kept feeling, and as I prayed, I was telling the Lord, it is not yet revealed what this seed you've placed in me is. So Lord, every attraction to anything, any temptation that is coming to me, temptation of wealth, temptation to want something of this world, if I truly knew the seed in me, I will not even be clamoring around the things that people of the world clamor around. People will tell you their idea of success and enjoying life and living your best life and being wealthy and being powerful. People will tell you their idea. But what that seed produces is something that they have never experienced. You and I have never experienced. But it's a whole package that can happen if we keep the soil, that's the conditions of our hearts, right. So are we willing to make God the ultimate, the only option. When you have wealth, you just feel, oh, my money can fix this. You don't even check with the Lord what is okay for you to get into. You just feel like, okay, I can take care of this. And that's a temptation to rely on stuff like wealth, to rely on the false power and position in society that wealth gives you, to rely on the possessions you're able to acquire through wealth. You see all the beauty and all the momentary happiness you can get through wealth. Jesus is saying that it can be a thorn. I heard someone say this story about an athlete who got into an accident and lost one of his arms. He still wanted to do a sport, so he was researching and finally decided to do handball. And he joined a club and got really good and went for a competition to represent his club. And he played so much better than the best. And he came at the top of his game and they won. And it was just so amazing. Reporters came from everywhere to interview him. And they asked him, they said, how come you have just one hand and you were able to play better and faster than the best of the best with two hands? You won't believe what this guy said. He said, because they have options.
Oh.
He said, when the ball is coming at them, they are thinking, which hand do I use? Because they have options. I'm not. Every time that ball comes around, I know which hand I'm gonna use. And I'm fast because I don't have options.
And so he doesn't have to worry about what hand to use.
He doesn't. That the time you take to think.
Reaction.
Yes. When God gives you a seed and you understand that this is coming from heaven, you understand the gravity of what is in your hands and that it depends on you how far that seed can go. Whether it's going to sprout and the sun will scorch it, or when it's going to sprout, the cares of this world will squash it. It's all in your hands to decide that there are no options for you. When there are no options for you, when the enemy keeps bringing these temptations and you don't even give them room, because your whole purpose in this life is to satisfy the heart of your Father, is to see this deposit of his seed in you thrive. You have no option. You won't even wait to consider what the enemy is presenting to you. No thorn can take you down. So remember, worries and the deceitfulness of wealth. Those are the thorns. So the teaching does not produce fruit in that person's life. It stops it from growing. You wonder, that teaching was so powerful, but you don't see yourself growing. You don't need to think twice. It's either worry or the deceitfulness of wealth. We are all supposed to help each other grow. Because right now, sitting here, you're not sitting among thorns. Because thorns will stop you from growing. So for a fertile ground to cause that seed to grow, the seed has to be amongst the right conditions that will support its growth and not stunt its growth. So it still goes back to what Joy was saying, who you surround yourself with. Is that person a thorn, or is something that causes it to grow?